Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving into the ultimate ancient family drama. We're talking about the story that literally defines the concept of cosmic balance in ancient Egypt. Yep, we are looking at the very first cosmic couple, Shu and Tefnut. We're going to break down exactly how the ancient Egyptians understood the atmosphere, the weather, and the physical space that actually makes human life possible. But to understand the universe, we kind of have to start at the very beginning. And honestly, it might just startle you. Because birthed by a cosmic sneeze? I know, it sounds totally bizarre to our modern ears. But according to the Heliopolitan creation myth, the universe as we know it essentially began with a sneeze and a spit. The ancient Egyptians definitely didn't shy away from using regular biological bodily functions to explain the vastness of cosmic creation. Section 1. The first cosmic couple. The origins of the Ennead. Okay, let's dive into this. To really grasp how Shu and Tefnut came to be, we have to look at their parent, this solitary creator god, Atum. Before literally anything else existed, Atum created the first male-female duality completely on his own. This unique method of creation without a partner was achieved through, well, the bodily fluids of the creator god himself. By sneezing and spitting, Atum brought forth the very first pair of cosmic elements, which completely set the stage for the entire Egyptian pantheon. And this isn't just some wild modern interpretation, it's right there in the ancient texts. Pyramid Text 527 explicitly states, Atum was creative in that he proceeded to sneeze while in Heliopolis, and brother and sister were born, that is Shu and Tefnut. And there's actually a really fascinating piece of linguistic wordplay happening here in the original language. The very first syllable of Tefnut's name, Tef, sounds exactly like the ancient Egyptian word for spitting. So her very identity is woven right into the phonetic sound of her creation. How cool is that? So, mapping out this cosmic family tree reveals exactly how the pantheon is structured. You start with step 1, Atum, the solitary creator. Then, step 2, you have our cosmic couple, Shu and Tefnut, representing air and moisture. They give birth to step 3, Geb and Nut, who represent the earth and the sky. And finally, Geb and Nut give birth to step 4, the famous gods you've probably heard of, Osiris, Isis, Set, and Nephthys. Notice how Shu and Tefnut sit right at the very top of this Heliopolitan Ennead. Without air and moisture, there's no earth and sky, and certainly no human-like gods to rule over it all. They are absolutely the foundational forces for all physically manifest life. Section 2. Shu, god of the air, the pacifying force. Let's split our narrative up a bit and look at the individuals that make up this primal pair. We'll start with the brother, Shu. The name Shu translates in ancient Egyptian to emptiness, or he who rises up. He's the god of the air, the wind, and light. But beyond just the physical element of air, he represents a very specific energy. He's a cooling, pacifying, and calming force in a completely chaotic universe. Now, what's really interesting about this is how the Egyptians visually represented this totally invisible force of air. His primary symbol is the ostrich feather, which perfectly encapsulates the concept of lightness and empty space. In fact, the hieroglyph for his very name uses this feather. He also carries the Ankh, the symbol of life, because, well, without breath, life ceases. But my absolute favorite, most poetic detail from the sources? The ancient Egyptians considered fog and clouds to literally be the bones of Shu. So when you look up at a cloudy sky, you are literally looking at the skeletal structure of the air god himself. Section 3. Tefnut, goddess of moisture, the fiery eye of Ra. So if Shu is the calming, empty air, his twin sister and wife, Tefnut, provides a stark, wrathful contrast. She is the goddess of moisture, which I know might sound gentle, but in the Egyptian worldview, her character was anything but pacifying. She is a powerhouse, a leonine deity who commands immense respect and fear. Her symbols are incredibly intense. She's frequently depicted as a woman with the head of a fierce lioness. She wears the Uraeus serpent and the solar disk on her head, and she possesses this really fascinating dual role. On the one hand, the pyramid texts say she produces pure, life-giving waters, but on the other hand, she is the mistress of the flame, acting as the fiercely protective eye of Ra. She's literally adorned with fire to protect against enemies, making her a highly volatile, highly defensive force. When we put these twins side by side, the ancient concept of duality becomes crystal clear. You have Shu representing dry air, a calming and pacifying nature, symbolized by that light ostrich feather, versus Tefnut representing wet moisture, a wrathful and fiery temperament, symbolized by the heavy, fierce lioness and the burning sun disk. They are total opposites, yet they are twins. They're this perfectly balanced equation of dry and wet, peace and fury. Section 4. Holding up the sky, the great separation. So what actually happens when you combine these two forces? Let's bring the cosmic siblings back together to explore their absolute most vital, shared function in Egyptian cosmology. Shu's most critical mythological act was actually separating his own children. His son Geb was the earth, and his daughter Nut was the sky. Initially, they were locked in this constant, incredibly tight embrace of love. But because they were entirely pressed together, there was literally no room in the universe for anything else to grow or live. None. So Shu stepped between them. He pushed his daughter Nut high up into the heavens and pressed his son Geb down to form the ground. Shu became the physical atmosphere holding them apart. Without this forceful separation by the god of air, humanity would have absolutely no physical space to exist. And this powerful image of a god holding up the heavens, it wasn't isolated to Egypt. There's a fascinating cross-cultural connection centuries later when the Greeks learned of Shu and immediately associated him with their own titan Atlas. Both are primordial deities whose primary mythological function is depicted in art as standing with their arms raised, forever holding up the celestial spheres, just to keep the sky from crashing down onto the earth. So, the crucial point is that Shu's presence wasn't just about creating physical space, it was about cosmic law. And this brings us right to Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of truth, justice, order, and cosmic balance. By standing calmly between the earth and the sky, Shu was the literal embodiment of Ma'at. His calming, separating presence is exactly what prevented the universe from collapsing right back into the dark, chaotic nothingness that existed before Atum sneezed. Section 5. The Runaway Lioness, an Ancient Family Dispute. Well, even cosmic forces have their bad days, right? We transition now into a really dramatic, character-driven myth. And this isn't just an ancient soap opera. Historians actually believe this dramatic myth likely served as an explanation for a real terrible weather disaster that hit at the end of the Old Kingdom. Let's map out the narrative beats of this cosmic family feud. Phase 1. Shu and Tefnut have a massive argument. Phase 2. Tefnut's wrathful lioness nature completely takes over. She abandons Egypt entirely and flees south to Nubia, an area that was naturally more temperate. And there she transforms into a wildcat that destroys literally any man or god that comes near her. For Egypt, this represented a catastrophic drought. The moisture had literally left the country. Then, phase 3. The ever-calming Shu quickly realizes he misses his twin, so the god of wisdom Thoth steps in. He actually has to disguise himself just to approach the destructive goddess safely. And finally, phase 4. Through Thoth's serious cunning, Tefnut is convinced to return, bringing the rain and moisture back to the parched Egyptian landscape. Section 6. The Balance of Life. As above, so below. As we bring this explainer toward its resolution, we really need to reflect on what these myths ultimately meant to the people who told them over thousands of years. You see, it wasn't just gods behaving badly. It was a deeply structured framework for understanding reality itself. And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy of ancient Egypt. The story of Shu and Tefnut is all about creating duality in the manifest world, above and below, light and dark, good and evil. You just cannot have life with only air. It becomes a barren desert. And you cannot have life with just moisture. It becomes a chaotic flood. It is only through the union, the dynamic tension, and the occasional disputes between the calming air and the fiery moisture that the fundamental prerequisites for existence are met. So, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. The next time you feel the wind or the rain, will you see the space between heaven and earth a little differently? The ancient Egyptians didn't just see empty space when they looked at the horizon. They saw Shu, holding up the sky with clouds for bones, perfectly balanced by the fierce, life-giving waters of Tefnut. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep feeding your curiosity, and I hope this deep dive has completely restructured your understanding of the world's very first cosmic couple.